Hello everybody, it's Tiffany from Dragonflyer Studio here. I have recently embarked on making this little portfolio here. I'm going to show it to you. And I've been asked from some of the groups that I've made to do a tutorial on how I got the cover. So I call this Faux Suede. It is soft to the touch. It feels very much like suede wood. However, it's made out of our friend, the brown grocery bag. So I'm just going to do a quick tutorial. If you're going to follow along with me and you kind of want to get set up before you get started, brown bag, the thicker the better. You can do it with very thin bags. It's just when we get to the part where you soften it up, the thinner paper has a tendency to tear and develop holes. So if you got a nice thick grocery bag, obviously this one came from Brahms, the thicker the paper, the better. The better consistency you'll have once it's dried and finished. And then this one bag will make 2 sheets. However big the side of the bag is, that's how big of the sheet paper you'll have. So like this one is, what do we got? Like we'll say 14 by 9. Yeah, sure, we'll say 14 by 9. And that's just a rough measurement. So I'll have 2 sheets of faux suede by the time you're all said and done. So I'm going to do 2 different colors. I'm going to do, I use Distress Oxides. You can use any ink pad as long as it's water-based, and you know, don't use something that's oil-based or has, you know, any kind of, oh goodness, I've seen like chalk ink pads and stuff like that, because once those dry, especially with the conditioner that we're going to use, once those dry, the ink will have a tendency to rub off on your hands and other projects, your surfaces and whatnot. So these ones, once they dry, they're permanent and they don't go anywhere unless you get them wet again, but that's just the nature of water-based inks. So I'm going to use chipped sapphire and walnut stain. And then ingredient number 3, good old Dollar Tree conditioner. I wouldn't suggest using anything that's like a 2-in-1 or a 3-in-1. There is soap in those, and there's a detergent in it. I tried it once. I had used what we had on hand. And it destroyed the fibers of the paper. I don't know what's in it, but if it'll do that to a brown paper bag, imagine what it'll do to your hair. Anyway, I just got this at the Dollar Tree. It doesn't take a lot. I've done, oh goodness, probably 10 sheets, and I've only used a half a bottle. So, and then pull these babies out. You're going to want some hand wipes, because by the time we really get rolling here, it's going to get messy. So all we're going to do is we're just going to take our handy dandy scissors, and you're just going to cut off the far edge of your paper bag. Okay? And all you're wanting to do is make sure that you go through the corners that would make the bag a bag if it were folded out. So like, make sure you get the bottom part of it. Makes the whole process a little easier if you disassemble your bag the correct way. And then I just throw those away. So now you'll have something that looks like this. You'll have these 2 little side pieces that you just pull out, and I save these brown paper bags, when you double them over, make really sturdy tags. So save those pieces. Really, there's nothing of the brown paper bag that I will throw away, except for maybe just some trim pieces that won't get turned into much. So then I come in here and I just cut along the bottom seam, and I do so on the other side. And I will set this aside. What I'll end up doing is gluing all of these pieces together, and then you can fold it over, and you can chop this thing in half, and this makes some really sturdy tags too, or journaling cards, or coins, certain things that can be turned into. Now, this bag has handles. What you're going to want to do is, if it has this little reinforcement piece, this is where the thicker brown bags come in handy. What I'm trying not to do is rip a hole in my base surface. If I rip a hole in it, it's not a big deal. It is just paper. Okay, and then This is really the only part that I throw away. I keep these handles because this is the piece that I throw away. And you probably could keep this, but it has adhesive already in the middle of it. So I let that go. I keep enough scraps. I don't feel bad about that part of this paper bag making it to the landfill. So then your semi-finished product should look like that. Just a single piece of brown paper bag. So we're going to do the other side the same way. Now this has the seam where the bag was originally factory put together. You just want to tear the seam off. Tear away from the bag. Don't tear this way because you're going to rip the edge of your bag. Okay, and I do throw that part away. Now, to remove the handle. If your surface that you're working on can become stained, I suggest putting something down that the ink can get onto and it not be a problem. Okay, so I save these because if you tear these apart, they come apart right here. Okay, you can do that, and then it becomes this. And you fold these over. I use them for collages. I use them for clusters. It's not super thick brown paper, but it's nice to have on hand, and I keep them because, well, why not? Okay, so now we have two roughly the same size pieces. Okay, larger paper bags, you're gonna have a larger piece going on here. Okay, so here's where it gets kind of fun and a little bit loud. So if you got headphones on, brace yourself. You're just gonna take your paper and we're just gonna crumple it. The more wrinkles that you put into this, the better your leather and your suede is going to look, because the ink will do a better job of transforming what is merely just a brown paper bag into the optical illusion that is our faux suede. If you can hear that, that is my son. He is downstairs thoroughly wrapped up in a video that he loves. He is autistic, so I may have to pause the video, as I've done in several other tutorials, because he might need me. And if he needs me, I gotta go. So, you don't put it down and flatten it out. You're not trying to get it back to flat. You kind of want it to be a little crumpled, a little raised on its edges, and here's why. You're going to start with, this is why I use these, because they're nice and flat. You're just going to start by rubbing your ink pad across the surface. And as you can see, it's not coloring the whole bag. I'm not pushing down as hard as I can. I'm just placing it on there, pushing it across. I rotate the paper because ink coming from this side is going to get this side of this little peak. Ink coming from this side is going to get this side of this little peak. So, it's up to you how much ink you do or do not want on your paper. I have found that the more ink you put on there, the more, we'll say, fabric-like it looks when it comes out. Okay, that's all that there is to that one. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside, and we're going to prep this one for the blue. Crumple, crumple, crumple. And you can distress the edges of this, you know, if you want to make it look like a leather map or whatever that's been tattered and torn over the edge over the years. You can totally distress it and antique it that way. However you want to play around with it. I learned how to do this in art class in high school. Okay, so now I'm going to use blue ink. Again, you don't want to smush it out flat. This is going to give it a totally different look. You're probably saying, well, but Tiffany, blue leather or blue suede is not a thing. Really? Tell that to Elvis, because I'm pretty sure he had a pair of shoes made out of it. But no, you know, it's faux suede. You know, I'm not trying to trick anybody into paying $300 for a, journal because, oh look, I covered it in blue suede, like, you know, the king. But yeah, red works really good. And what you can do is layer your inks to give it more of a, I don't want to say defined look, but just a different look. Like, and I would let this dry, because if I came back in now with my brown, my blue ink would rub off onto my brown ink pad, and it's a whole cross-contamination scenario that just gives me anxiety, and I'm not going to do it. But you could, if you let this dry, hit it with a heat gun, just make sure that that ink is really dry, and then go over it with the brown. I think I have a brown and red one that I did that I can show you the final product of. I'm going to set this aside and give it a chance to dry a little bit. We're going to come back to our brown. Now, here's where it gets messy. I'm going to take off my watch because I'm about to use my hands. So with this little guy here, I'm not going to use that much conditioner. Probably right about there is what I'm going to go with. And we're just going to go in and start smearing it all around. I work it out to the edges. I do have this on my Fiskars board, so if I get conditioner on the board, it's not a big deal to me. I'm not gonna, I care, but I don't care so much that it's a catastrophe. Okay, so once you got this surface all wet, you're probably gonna have some excess on your hands. You want to kind of pull some of this off as best you can. It's not an exact science. Then you're gonna pick it up and wipe it on the back. Now, if you notice, there's no noise. What we want the conditioner to do is work its way into the paper. So it's gonna make it wet. Oh no, okay, so see, that ripped. And that's what I was talking about. So that might go on to become something other than maybe a book cover or something like that. Or I could just trim it off and go with it. It's not that big a deal. It's just paper, just a brown paper bag. Okay, so now we have this. Please don't let that be my thumbnail. People will be like, what is she doing with that on the screen? I'm gonna offend somebody. Okay, so now what you want to do to the best that you can, you just kind of want to straighten it out. You want to flatten it out. If you've got a nice place that you can set this flat to dry, I would suggest that. So if you want to leave it kind of crinkled, you can do that as well, because it's not going to come back as rigid as the original brown paper bag was. So I'm just going to roughly clean off the conditioner and the brown ink from my hands. If you have an allergic reaction to any kind of conditioner, I suggest you wear gloves. I do not. I've used this conditioner on my hair, on my son's hair, and all of that in the past, so I know we're safe there. But if you think you are using a product where an allergic reaction might happen, I strongly urge you to put on some gloves. Because, I mean, my hands feel super soft when I'm done, but allergic reaction is an allergic reaction. I don't want to make anybody sick. Okay, so same process with this one. You're going to see that blue start to expand. Okay, same thing here. I'm just going to wipe up a little bit of it just so it doesn't droop everywhere, and you can see the blue ink coming off. And then flip it over and start massaging it in on the back side. And then we just smush. There we go. And it feels very much like cloth as you're doing this. So there we have it. There's what the blue suede is going to turn out like. Okay, and it will look much different once it dries. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to peel this one off, set it over here to dry, and then I have some finished products. I want to show you what it looks like. You saw it there on my journal at the beginning. That's once it's been applied to something, but I want to show you what it looks like when it's just the paper itself. Forgive me while I do a little cleanup. Oh look, my hand's blue. That might be another reason why you want to wear gloves. I don't mind that I have the hands of an artist. Sometimes there's ink on them, sometimes there's paint on them. Sometimes my friends will look at me and be like, Jesus, did you shower? I'm like, yeah, just been in the studio doing the thing. So here are some ones that I have done. These are dry. So there's just the brown. There's just the brown. Oh, the red one I used on my other journal. Here's the blue. That's what that's going to look like when it's all said and done. So, and they're very soft. They're very pliable. You can, trim them, cut them, do whatever you want to. They act just like paper. They take a stitch really well. You can sew with them. So, yeah, you can design with those to your heart's content. So, to anybody watching this video, I'm so thankful that you are here. If you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. Give me a like, give me a share, leave a comment. I love answering comments, you guys. And, yeah, otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see much more Faux Suede out there on journals. Until next time, this is Tiffany from Dragonflyer Studios. Thanks.